Before we get to this week's episode of Business Over a Brew, let me tell you about my friends at Roberts Motors. You know, one of our favorite episodes here on the show was when we had a chance to sit down with Sam and John Roberts. If you haven't had a chance to watch that episode, go back and take a look at it. It's great to see the interaction between not only two business partners, but of course father and son as well. They really epitomize what a local business is all about. Number one, doing business the right way, giving back to the community. If you have a chance, you may not buy a car from there, but at least give them the opportunity. Shop robertsmotors.com. You get more at Roberts Motors Ford. More selection, more value. Each vehicle they sell comes with the Roberts Rewards Value Package, which includes oil changes for 2 years, loaner cars, car washes, and much more. Get more at Roberts Motors Ford. Check them out at robertsmotors.com. Now enjoy this week's episode of Business Over a Brew. Welcome to Business Over a Brew, the show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders, all while enjoying a nice brew from the Great Rivers Tap and Grill inside the Best Western Premier Hotel in Alton. In this episode, we visit with Lance DeMond, owner of Arrow Signs. He'll tell us how the business got started in his basement, the dynamic of working with his family on a daily basis, and how the business got its name. So let's get to it. It's the Business Over a Brew podcast from the Great Rivers Tap and Grill inside the Best Western Premier Hotel in Alton. Welcome to Business Over a Brew. Really excited about this episode. Pleased to be joined by Lance DeMond from Arrow Signs, a guy who's been doing business in the Riverbend area for a long time. Lance, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of start with where'd you grow up, and are you from the area?
Yes. Born and raised in the area. Went to Rufus Easton School in grade school, and McKinley School, and North Junior High School or Junior School, and Alton High School. And but we've always been in the area, and proud to be from this area.
What'd you do when you got out of high school? What was the game plan?
Well, prior to getting out of school, I traveled a lot. I had left home and traveled, and I worked in numerous sign businesses and sign companies all over the United States for a couple years, and then I ended up going in business with my father, who owned Star Sign Company.
Okay, so was it just something that were you seeking that out, or was it just like kind of a coincidence that you ended up working for a sign company, or?
No, I grew up in the sign business, and
so you knew that business because your dad had a sign company.
I had grown up in the sign business, and but I like to be on my own most of the time, so that's what I did. I traveled around a little bit, and I worked in numerous sign companies all over the United States, and got a good background on it. In fact, it was kind of odd that a lot of times, I mean, I was very young when I was doing this, and I would have to lie about my age to get a job. And I would get hired in those days, maybe at $5 an hour. But the guys that had been there 2 or 3 years were still making $3.75 and $4 1/4 and so on. But I had a talent. I was a sketch artist and a sign painter.
Okay.
By trade, which I learned from my parents.
Was art always, you learned it from your parents? Was it something you were always into growing up?
Well, it's just one of those things that you grow up with, and you just automatically learn it. My dad was a sign painter himself, and he had a lot of friends. We all painted signs. And so a lot of the guys used to get together in the evening at friends' houses. It was like about 2 times a month, and we would meet, and we would practice with the brushes, using brush strokes and learning to control the brush to paint signs. And that's how we learned to do it.
Well, that process has changed a little bit. I would imagine we'll get to that here in a bit. But tell us a little bit about your dad's company, Star Sign Company. What was that like working there?
Well, my dad married my mother, whose name is Two Star, and years back, and he named the company after her, which is Star Sign Company. Mm-hmm. And we started. We had 2 or 3 businesses, different locations in Alton, on Broadway, and then on Bell Street. And we bought a building there and added on to it, and we started, painting. Dad painted signs, but besides just painting signs, my parents always worked very hard, and they had a lot of property. They rebuilt property, and but we grew up with really good work ethics. That's what we do.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, tell us how Arrow Signs got started.
well, I was in business with my father, working for him, and after a period of time, the state came through and put in the MLK highway, and they ended up buying his property, which is where part of that highway is.
Right.
And so he was going out of business, and prior to him going out, I went in business about 5 years before he went out of business. And it was more of a necessity type thing. I never did really do well working with other people or working for other people. I switched jobs a lot, and but I always wanted to do my own thing. And so I did. I started doing my own sign business. In fact, we lived in Godfrey, and I worked out of the basement of my house, and we were painting signs and putting them up, and that's kind of where it started. And then I was really interested in the outdoor advertising billboard business, and I saw a niche there, so I started acquiring locations and ground leases and building signs, and then I designed them at night along with my wife, and after the kids were in bed, we'd be up till 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning drawing sketches to show a customer the next day. And then there were always changes, but
Right.
but then we always, after we agreed on that, then we'd do the sign work, install it, and then we got to a point we kind of outgrew the basement,
Sure.
and so I ended up leasing some property on Godfrey Road and a little building, and then we've just expanded since then, and we built a couple buildings there. After a period of time, we moved from Godfrey Road over to Albee Street, where we presently are.
Was there a time in those early days working out of the basement where was just some times where you thought, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Maybe I should just go get a job, or were you always just confident that this is what you were going to do and it was going to work?
Yeah. I never had a hesitation about it. It's just what I had to do. I never even thought about not being successful.
Didn't have a plan B.
There was no plan B. It's you're going to do it, and I've always been able to do it, and that's the way it is.
I think that's a common thread with most successful business owners. There is no plan B. This is what we're doing. This is my passion. This is what I want to do, and we're going to make it work no matter what comes our way.
Yeah. No, I agree with that for sure. But when you grow up in a business family,
Sure.
and even our whole family's always been in business doing something, whether it's property or selling shoes or selling cars or building houses. We've always been in business doing something.
Always had that entrepreneurial spirit.
Correct.
And obviously it runs in the family too, because now your son's working with, or big part of the business, obviously.
Right. My son Lance Arrow. Yep. Can't say enough about him. Obviously, we happen to be born on the same day, March 7th. We're 25 years apart exactly. It's we're a lot alike.
That can cause problems.
Sometimes that is a problem.
Right.
But I think the world of him. He's really brought my business up in numerous ways. New ideas. I'm old school.
Right.
And I'm confident in what I do, and I don't like a lot of change because, what works, hey, why fix it? Why change it if it's working? But he has stepped up and brought a lot of new ideas and new concepts, and really pushed me along. And I would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't him, coming up with these ideas and debating my decisions.
And man, has there been a lot of change in your business and just the services that you guys offer? We'll kind of touch on those in a second. When did you move into the current location?
Oh gosh, we've been there about 12 years now, and it's on Albee Street.
Right.
And we were looking to. We needed a bigger facility, and this place was available. It's got 15,000 square feet under roof, so we can manufacture in there. We keep our trucks in every night, and that's what's part of the business too, is your equipment.
Right.
Equipment is so expensive, and We do keep all of our equipment inside at night. We pull it out every day and keep it clean and serviced, and that's a big part of the business too.
So you started off in your basement, really just you and Nancy, your wife.
Right.
How many you're up to now on average, as far as crew members or team members go?
Gosh, it depends. In the summer, we have more employees, but I'd say we probably have 10 full-time employees at the present time.
Well, it's a terrific success story of, from where you started off in your basement into where you are now. Talk about just some of the services that you guys offer. I know most people think of when they think of Arrow, they think of the billboard company and the billboard business, but there's a lot more that you guys are doing. That's for sure.
Right, and that's part of your marketing plan, and that's why I'm wanting to do business with you, is to have a good marketing plan, but we do billboards, and we find ground leases, and we construct the billboard structure, and then we sell the advertising on it.
Sure.
But besides that, that's about half of our business, and it's a good solid 50% of it. But we do any type of signs from simple vinyl lettering on windows, trucks. We manufacture all types of channel letters for building identification. We've done a lot of stuff for the new Alton Square Mall. We install those type of signs. We work within about a 100-mile radius of where we're at. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of stuff in St. Louis. So we have bucket trucks and boom trucks, and so we're able to do just about anything with regard to signs. And the sign business goes along with the billboard business, because if, for instance, we're in Collinsville or Belleville or somewhere, we're working on a billboard to change out or change lights and set timers. We're also working on maybe some Domino's pizza store letters or signs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you need the same equipment to do both jobs.
Sure.
So it's just a really nice match.
Right. I know in recent years too, the LED retrofitting has been a big part of your business, and I know you guys work closely with Ameren and are a preferred partner of theirs, I think is the correct term. So,
right.
Talk a little bit about that part of it too.
We're a registered ally with Ameren UE Energy Efficiency Program. Mm-hmm. It's about, I guess we've been doing it about 3 years, and in fact, we in the fall we meet and have a conference. All the allies do, and then we talk about what the incentives are going to be for the following year, coming up here in 2020. And while we were there, we got honored with they gave us an honor that said we were in the top 10 companies in the state of Illinois, just south of Chicago to the southern tip of Illinois, in projects done, mm-hmm. completed.
And that's really going in and changing lighting for parking lots and outdoor lighting for the most part?
Right. It's called LED retrofitting.
Right.
And what we do is we remove the old inefficient light fixtures and lighting, and we install efficient LED fixtures. And there's a lot of incentives from Ameren, and the way that happens is that it's basically wattage is reduced. So if you have a 1,000-watt light fixture, 1,000-watt metal halide, and you reduce it to 150-watt LED, you get X amount of cents per watts reduced. So it's really a no-brainer most of the time, because by the time you change this out and you get the incentive back from Ameren, and then the reduction in your cost in your electricity bill within 2 or 3 years, the project pays for itself. It's got 10-year warranties on all the LED products, which is, I'm always scared to say the 10 years, but that's what they warrant.
Right.
10 years is a long time.
Sure, yeah.
But they do. And so it's really a heck of a program. But that's been probably the latest thing we've been doing, which is a big part of our business. Mm-hmm. We're really big into electronic message signs, EMCs.
Right.
We do those for banks and schools and businesses, and so we're really big into that. We manufacture and fabricate and install all types of lighted signs, along with the EMCs or manual marquees. But they're really becoming affordable
Sure.
for just all kinds of businesses. So,
where did the name for Arrow Signs come from?
Well, from my heritage, my mother and her side of family is Ogallala Sioux Indian, and originated from the Redbud Reservation in South Dakota. When my dad married my mother, it was called Star Sign Company, and when I opened my business, my son's name is Lance Arrow.
Right.
So obviously, I had named my company Arrow Signs and Outdoor Advertising, and that's where it came from.
Cool. When did Lance Arrow come to work for you?
Oh gosh, he's been he's always been with us. I don't even remember when he started because after school he'd take the bus, dropped off wherever he could, and then he'd walk, to the sign shop.
Right.
And always help us. He's always been there. I can't even remember. I might have to ask him. It's kind of funny that you say that.
How do you guys balance that? I mean, you spend a lot of time together, obviously, at the shop. How do you manage that with the father-son relationship, but also working together?
I don't think there's a defined. You can't really define it in any certain way because it changes on a regular basis.
Sure.
I think we need to give each other our own space. Lance runs the whole operation of the sign business, and it's you can't have two managers, and I know that you can't. He managed, and I come in and try to change something. That doesn't happen. So he does run the 100%, and that's been a big hurdle we've been over. But then there's always going to be changes. If you got a plan, I can guarantee you one thing: there's going to be changes in it. So that's something you have to be versatile enough to be able to work together and talk about it.
Right. I think in any relationship like that, whether it's father-son or boss-employee, or obviously you were there first, so you feel it's got to be hard to let him make his own mistakes. But there's definitely benefit in letting him do that.
Yeah.
Or letting him do it the way he wants to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for me to stay out of his business. But I've learned that's what you have to do.
Right.
And it's going to work out. I mean, there's more than one way to get to San Diego. I mean,
Sure.
So as long as we all end up at the same spot and have the same goals at the end of the day, that's what you have to accept.
We've been around a long time, obviously very successful. What would you say are one or two keys to the success of Arrow Signs over the years?
Oh, probably the hardest thing. I mean, the most important thing is you got to stay consistent and work hard. Nose to the grindstone all the time. I work around the clock. There's doesn't matter if it's late at night or in the evening or in the morning. Business is constantly on my mind, coming up with ideas. You've got to keep changing things and recreating and reinventing yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest successes that I've had, is I do know that. And you have to be open for change, and that's a tough thing for me at times, but Lance has showed me that.
And you've done it. I mean, there's been obviously quite a bit of change since you started.
So there has been, from the old days of hand drawings at night, late at night. Everything's computerized. Obviously, I have a whole graphic department.
Right.
But everything's computerized. And everything's digitally printed. A lot of artwork. In fact, it's kind of odd that the outdoor advertising and sign business was kind of exclusive to sign guys. Since things have changed and there's computers and there's a lot of other people who can get in the sign business.
Sure.
Because you can order a lot of stuff, and a lot of real estate guys have gotten into the sign business. They know about real estate. Well, sign guys only knew about real estate at the time, about putting up billboards.
Right.
Rent the space, build the structure, lease the structure. We design it, we paint it, we put it up, we maintain it. But now, the way things have changed, so you got to be versatile.
Yeah.
In everything, and be open for change.
And I know you personally have had to adapt a lot, from painting them in your basement to, I'm sure that doesn't happen at all anymore. It's all
right.
Computerized. And
Yeah. Really, the only people that I still have my brushes, and the only people I really paint for at all is Eddie down to Bon Air.
Okay.
Behind his grill,
Right.
He cannot have vinyl signs because the grease and the heat heats it up and curls it off, so it's got to be painted. But
You still like doing that every once in a while? I mean, is that
Nah,
still
not necessarily.
Not really. just as soon not do it, huh? So- well, I know you've also got some pretty interesting hobbies as well. Tell us a little bit about what you do away from work.
Oh, well,
Besides being married 38 years.
yeah. And, well, my wife and I have been together a long time. And I love her as much today as I did the day I met her, or more, obviously. And, but my family,
Sure.
Nancy's family was very close, and they come from an Italian family. And so they get together on a regular basis, and very close family. And, the Monsignor would come to the house, and the nuns would come to the house on Sundays, and we'd drink a little homemade wine, and stuff. And I didn't have that in my life when I was growing up. We came from a working family.
Right.
And we worked constantly. If we weren't doing sign work, we were working on property. But even as a little kid, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, we always worked with my family. But that's what I like doing, is being with my family. My grandsons, I've got 2 boys, 2 grandsons. And, we, over the years, we've started snow skiing when we were real young. And we've kept that up. I have a daughter that lives in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. In fact, we're planning on going to see her in this spring of this year. We're avid bass fishermen. My wife and I fish a lot, and my whole family does. And as a kid, we would go up to Minnesota, northern Minnesota, and stay at the lodges, on the lakes and the campsites. A good big old-time family friend of ours is the Van McKeetises. And Big John and my dad were good friends, and we stayed at the same places. They own the Tony's ranch house.
Sure. Yeah.
And but their whole family fished, and our family fished, and there was just a lot of people from this area that went to that same spot.
Right.
But Nancy and I are avid golfers. As much as I play, I really don't get any better, and I don't know why that is.
Why is that? Sometimes I feel like I get worse the more I play.
But
well, I wanted to touch on too. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about all the charitable things that you do for the community as well. Talk a little bit about those contributions, and just, I know it's part of the culture at Arrow Signs.
Yeah, the big campaign we've got going on now, we work with the Salvation Army, and we put up some billboard campaigns. We want people to get out and ring the bell, so we're trying to support that. And as a youngster, like I mentioned earlier, when I was traveling around, a lot of times I didn't have anywhere to stay, and I did stay at the Salvation Army quite a bit. And so my heart is open for them, and I'm willing to help as much as I can to support them. And it's just a fabulous operation. The Al Womack, with the Boys and Girls Club, I love him. They do great work. I've been working with him a long time. I'm a very big supporter of him also.
Well, we're very fortunate to have a company like Arrow in the community, and thanks for starting it, and thanks a lot for joining us on Business Over Brew. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Nick.